Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe community, heart,
Blackbook Mondays, SOS.
Carolyn, and real quick, we got Mr. Crazy D here.
Hey, what's going on? Lordland Films, because a beautiful black image is everything. Let me tell you, you need to go into the LordlandFilms.com, also LordlandFilms.com/Lordland TV, and also go to your Cox cable remote, go to Contour, click apps, click YouTube, and then search Lordland Films, and you will see us on Cox Cable.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
we got Teresa here.
Hey,
Teresa
good morning, everybody. This is Teresa with Legal Shield, 702-715-9777, because everybody's entitled to legal justice, justice for all.
Yeah, great. Now, folks, again, if you like what you hear and you support black-owned businesses, I don't care what color you are, I don't care what your beliefs are as far as political, please download the Black Book, www.theblackbook.directory, so that you can support black-owned businesses 24/7. And also, our Black Dollars Matter, where we have products from the Black Market. So we're about to get hot now as we talk about the Black Agenda and voting and black media.
Blackbook Mondays, SOS. Blackbook Mondays, SOS. Saving ourselves through black economics. The Blackbook crew would like to thank you for listening in as we introduce black businesses to our community. We believe black power equals black business. Sponsored by Genrise, your business consulting. Teresa Butts, your legal eagle. Financial Life Cycle Group, your tax and insurance coaches, Lordland Films, and of course, the Black Book, our electronic phone directory. On Mondays from 10:30 to 11 o'clock, sponsorship available. Black Book Mondays.
And now, here's your host.
We are at war! 1, 2, 3, 4, get it!
Thank you. Hey, what do you think about that? We are at war, folks. We are really at war, and we need to understand that as we talk about taking back our economy and taking back our politics. So, folks, let's start off first by introducing the folks that are going to be here real quick. My man with the plan.
Lordland Films, because a beautiful black image is everything.
Okay.
Hey, Teresa Butt with Legal Shield, because everybody's entitled to legal justice.
And we got a new accounts manager with the Black Book.
Carolyn Thomas with CC Designs. We've designed with elegance in mind.
Great. So this is the crew. We're going to talk today about, we're going to talk a little bit about this weekend, because this weekend was to me really good, because we were able to get candidates out there to specifically talk about our issues. They didn't come out here to talk about DACA. They didn't come out here to talk about education per se. They came in here to talk about issues pertaining to the black agenda. They didn't come to talk about gun control. Because, folks, I'm going to tell you something before I get started. Many of our politicians today stay on the safe zone. They want to talk about education and gun control. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Let me go on record. I am very concerned about gun control, because just like everything else that comes out, gun control affects me the most, more than anybody else. If you understand the history of California, they implemented gun control because of the Black Panthers. So think about it. Different times, but we need to be very careful of what we wish for, because it may happen. And again, education. While education is important, economics drives education. And if all you want to talk to me is about education, then you're missing the point, because until we can fix issues of a living wage, of affordable housing, of stable families because they are able to live, grow, and live the American dream, you will never fix education. So stop talking to me about those two and start talking to me about the real issues. So Crazy D, you were there. What did you think about this weekend?
Well, first, let me say that Brian Harris does not mince words. What you hear him say on the radio, he stands right in front of the candidates and says the same exact thing. There's no different message for different constituents, none of that. He comes in, it's about the black agenda. That's what it's about. Let me tell you, in and out, he had 70 to 100 people. If you go to Lordland Films, or you just go to Cox Cable, grab your remote, click apps, go to YouTube, type in Lordland Films, you will be able to see what happened at the mixer on Friday night. Let me say you this. The candidates came out to speak to the people. Unfortunately, like Tabia Mawutsi said on hers when she was calling people out, the majority of the people who came to speak with the candidates and learn what they were about did not look like us. So we have to begin to be actionary and not reactionary. If something is happening, when they announce it in the news, by that time, it's already set in stone, ready to go. So you come into a meeting when they're planning and letting you know how it's going to go down. That's not going to change anything. You have to come out before. You have to make sure, in this case, that you're registered to vote so that you can vote in the primary on June 12th, because there are some candidates that could win without needing to go to the November election. And
Absolutely.
Brian's going to talk about that. But let me tell you, the black agenda is very important. If people are not willing to talk about the black agenda, they do not deserve the vote of black people.
Absolutely. Thank you. Crazy D does a excellent job of giving us a film in history. I'm going to ask you to put the link on here when you get through on the comment section so people can find it. Now, folks, I want to talk a little bit because I saw a magazine, and I saw Joe Lombardo on the front of the magazine. Let me go on straight to first to say I support Tim Bedwell for sheriff. And there's a reason I support Tim Bedwell. Tim has come to the show. He has been vetted. He has talked to us about issues pertaining to us. He has stated the fact that there are biases, and first you have to acknowledge the biases to fix the problems. He's talked about having equity in one area versus the other, so you don't hold one to a higher standard, which creates biases than you do to another group. So we have to basically vet our candidates and not just put them on a magazine that is focused to us just because they have the money. So this leads me to a discussion that I had in private that I need to bring out here. There's a difference between black media and urban media. Trust me, there is a difference, and let me explain to you why. If you understand the history of black media, we were being lynched. We were under economic and civil injustice. And black media was there to call it out and to force change. All money wasn't good money for black media.
Amen.
Just because you have a PAC doesn't mean you're going to be on the front of a black media periodical. Let me tell you, black media is to inform our constituents on the issues prevalent to the struggle for both social and economic justice. Those should be the driving points of what goes in a magazine that is a black media magazine. We need to vet candidates. If you have Joe Lombardo on, you need to look at his record. Do we still just see disproportionately the amount of African Americans going to jail? Do we see disproportionately the charges being dropped on us as more and more to force plea deals? Do we see us taking more plea deals and spending more time in jail than other groups? Well, guess what, folks? If you know there's a bias out there and you turn around and you keep electing the same people who aren't even talking about it, let alone trying to correct it, then the problem lies with us. Yeah, I said it. The problem lies with us. But we also need to understand what is true black media. Black media has they have a requirement that they are looking at our best interests. They have a requirement that they vet people before they put them on their magazine. Because just because you have a glossy magazine, just because you have $1 million pack and you can put more pictures out, does not mean that you are good for our community. And I'll say that again. It does not mean that. So Please, if I offend anybody, I'm sorry, but I'm offending you. The bottom line is we have to be informed voters. Because, folks, I'm going to tell you something. They have said statistically in 2 decades, black people will have no wealth. If we have no wealth, we're not second-class citizens. We're fourth-class citizens. If we have no wealth, then you do what you need to do to survive. If we have disproportionately the higher amount of black folks who are being not just put in jail, but prosecuted, and disproportionately we are treated incorrectly, if justice is not blind, then we should not have the same people in the front. And you have to make that decision on whether justice is blind. Not somebody says, oh, I like this person. Oh, he's a nice guy. If a person has a record, we need to look at their record. And we need to question them about their record. And then we need to listen to the incumbents and see if they are talking about our issues when we make a decision. Now, on the 10th, I am scheduled to talk to the district attorney. I want to know what the facts are as far as the percentage of black people that are being prosecuted at the punishment levels. I don't believe they have it, folks. I think specifically that information is not being kept because it tells a story that they go and spend millions of dollars like they did to say there's bias in the schools. Duh! We all knew there was bias in the schools. Just like we know there's bias and injustice in the in the prosecution of black folks and the way we're treated when we're pulled off. These biases will continue if we continue to vote for people who continue to hurt our long-term endeavor. So what do you have to say? Anybody have any comments there?
I think it's so critical that you also look at the district attorney, and you said you're going to meet with him, so that's critical on your conversation. I'd like to go with you. Because having worked in the prison system for 36 years and retiring as a warden, you know, it's the court that decides whether or not that case goes forward.
Absolutely.
And so the district attorney is the one that reviews those cases. So it's critical that you not just look at one person in office, that you look at the entire system. You know, it's so hard right now and sad that they're taking pleas because they don't think there's another option. But there is an option out there. There is legal systems that can help protect you, and it's time that you start having justice for all. We got to have that, and we got to have it now.
Okay.
You know, it's just like what you were when you were talking to the Republican candidate for governor.
Yep.
And you were telling him about Black Wall Street in Oklahoma, and you were saying, and then his wife was saying, well, they didn't teach us that in school, right?
Right.
The truth is that it is systematic. What is happening to black bodies is systematic. We were 9% after slavery ended. We were 9% of the population. We were growing. They are afraid that America will become run by black people. But who else better to take it over? If Obama taught them anything. See, this is one thing that people need to know. The still majority right now needs to know. The non-melanated people need to know. Obama was not black people's savior. He was your savior.
Absolutely.
He was there to say, would you be able to look at the person? If Christ came back in the way that he will really come back, would you be ready for him? He's like a precursor. He's like a John the Baptist. He came back to show you. He came manifest in this body to see if you would be ready. And the still majority has failed miserably. They have failed miserably. And if Christ came back, they would be trying to do the same thing. They'd be trying to crucify. Michelangelo is Jesus. But anyway, that's a whole nother tale. But the main point is, it's a systematic organized destruction of black bodies to get us back down to 9% from where we were. We were going to 15% of the population. Mm-hmm. So this is what this is about. So when people talk about, well, there's a bias or about policing, when I interviewed, because I actually interviewed Tim Bedwell.
Absolutely.
And so I asked him the hard questions, and we have more of that going up. You know, I don't endorse. I stay neutral. I'm just the camera guy.
But I endorse.
But you endorse, but I'm the camera guy. I stay neutral.
Absolutely.
But what I can tell you is, everywhere he goes, because I researched him before I interviewed him, everywhere he goes, he talks about slavery. He talks about that the police were patty rollers first. And so those things in the system, the sheriff's department, the police departments around the country, they were to collect, and they were mostly Irish who were trying to gain their citizenship, so they collected runaway slaves.
Yeah.
So that's the history of police. So when people say that, let's wipe all this fakeness away and let's just realize that's their point, and that is still ingrained in the system. And even when black cadets come out, they say, I have a bias against my own people. Absolutely. By what they train me about what black people are and how they act.
And it starts at the top, folks, because there's a realization. The high percentage of police officers are very, very good people. Very good people. But it comes down to, number one, the person at the top sets the agenda. The person at the top determines whether people will treat everyone with respect or not. So again, I will go on record. I'm supporting Tim Bedwell for sheriff. I ask you all to look at the history of how we are before you vote. Don't just vote because you see a shiny picture on an urban magazine. Vote because you know the facts. I see on the back of it, Steve Sisolak. I've been wanting to ask Steve this question. And if you can answer it, you might get my vote.
Call in.
You came in to the Democratic convention with a bunch of union folks and bragging about 40,000 new jobs. And I think that was impressive. But I want to know what percentage of that 40,000 looked like me. How many of those 40,000, if we're 10% of the populace, then about 4,000 of us should be employed. If we're 10% of the population, then our businesses should be employed. So if you're proud about something, which is great for everybody else, make sure we're part of the pot if you're talking about it. We have a convention center. Hats off. I know one of the architectures is KME, black owned. But we also need to make sure that there is black participation and not just minority participation. We need to ask these people who are running. The governor, one of the things I said is we have to have a designation that counts black businesses, because they count veterans, they count disabled, they count other groups, but they don't crown us. And then they high five because they meet their objectives, and we are losing ground. And if you know the history of set-asides, they were created by the Republican Party to create black economics, and then they were hijacked by our party, and they were watered down so that it's about everybody. And that's why I say it can't always be about everybody, my friend. Sometimes it's got to be about us. Sometimes we have to say, look, listen, talk to me about black issues.
Because a lot of black businesses don't get the capital that these other businesses get. So they're out there just trying to stay afloat, and they don't get the contracts because you can't get the contracts because you don't have the capital in order to get what you need. So it's so important that, especially now, you get out and vote. And the millenniums, you guys are going to be ones that's going to help make change in this country.
Absolutely.
So you have to step up, get registered to vote, and get out there and let your voices be heard.
And be informed.
Yeah, because right now there's so much going on that if you don't get out there and understand what these new laws they're trying to enforce, or people that's getting in office, we're going to continue to have the same old thing. I was down in Mississippi living there. They kept re-electing the same old people. And the whole town store and the town areas that I was in, there was Dollar Generals. That's all that was there. No grocery stores, no nothing. People were paying a higher rate, but yet they keep electing the same old people. No change.
So, folks, thank you. Teresa's going to talk in a minute, but please, a couple things. We're going to come back to this issue, but we're going to let Teresa talk in a minute. But I'm going to ask you, if you want to find out some information, go to the Blackbook, the www.theblackbook.directory. We have information on there about candidates. We have information specifically under the voter section that will help you be an informed voter. You also have the ability to go online and register or change your designation so that you can vote in the primaries. Now, the reason I keep talking about the sheriff's race is understand, in the primary, if one person has 41%, There is no November election. They have won. 51. They have 51% or 50 plus one vote.
Yeah, that's right.
So, folks, we could actually change this thing. We could come out and do something that we could knock down Goliath. David can win. And if he wins, it sends ripple effects across everybody. It says they have to stop just following the money, following the PACs, and start listening to us, the voters. But, folks, if we don't change, then we'll be happy with what we have. If we don't change, we're going to end up fourth-class citizens. The American dream was that we would have affordable housing. We'd be able to save a little bit of money. We'd have stable households. Folks, if these folks are only talking about education and gun control, vote for somebody else. You got a lot of candidates out there. Sometimes you can vote to send a message that you're not listening to me, so I'm going to vote for somebody else. But you need to vote. Don't stay at home. Voter apathy is what they're banking on. They're thinking that we will not be informed. They will bank that we will not come out. And as I said, if you don't like the front runners, vote for somebody else. But please be informed and vote.
You know what? Something that came from out of the mixer the other day, which we do have the discussion, which will be coming out on Lordland Films. But the Libertarian Party, the Democrats, the Independents, all got together and they said they want to have a debate for District 4. Now, that's big.
Yeah,
because
a lot of candidates.
That's going to be able to put the policy issues out there that aren't being discussed by the front runners, or as they said, I forget the term they said, golden whatever, but it's not being discussed. So these different people have agreed to come together. They were talking amongst each other. That is something that Brian Harris should be applauded for, because that is game changing for all the different parties to come together and actually talk.
Yeah, exactly.
And let me say this, I'm like Crazy D. I'm liberal. I know several people on Metro Police that I like. I took their civilian course. It was a wonderful course. But I never really heard anything on Bidwell until I saw that.
The piece.
The piece that you did. I mean, it's a strong piece. If you guys haven't looked on Facebook, you need to look at it, because it's making me think Bidwell might be a good candidate. Because
not might, he is.
I'm just saying, I'm staying neutral, but the article was outstanding. I mean, if you're a minority, a black person in this community, in this city, you need to look at that on Facebook.
Because he is addressing the black agenda.
Issues, yes.
I mean, like Brian has continually invited people to come on to the show to talk about the black issues. It doesn't hurt to come on and talk about the black issues. Have like how you have the different constituents and you going on ahead and you talk differently to each one as politicians. Come on and talk about the black agenda, because those other constituents probably aren't listening.
And here's
So
what
don't be
happens.
afraid.
You're right.
Don't be afraid.
When you come on live, it's not like they can pre-record their statement. So there's questions they're asked on the spot that if you really ain't feeling it or you really ain't trying to help the community, you're going to fumble all through it. But this promotion that I saw that Crazy did on Bidwell, I mean, it was outstanding.
Bidwell.
I mean, it was well done. Bidwell. It was well done. It was well made, and his conversation was strong for the black community. So I'm staying neutral, but it's pretty hard to not say that that's a pretty good candidate.
Let me tell you, it's big for, not to toot my horn or to toot Tim Bedwell. Because like I said, I'm staying neutral. But, I make sure that the productions that I do are up standard or above the standard that you see
it was above
on TV, and that it can go to the cinema and play on the widescreen on the cinema, and it will be just as crystal clear as if you were seeing an Avengers movie.
I thought he did the promo himself.
So that's very important to me, because I work for my people to be seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated. And so the skill set is there to make sure that you look good. So make sure that you pick up one of the new pamphlets. We have the new pamphlets going around. They're going to be in your favorite black-owned businesses. We have the Black Book in there. We have Nothing But the Facts podcast in there. We have the Dope Hangouts and how you can be on the show, and also my editing rates, graphic editing rates. All that is in the pamphlet. You can pick them up. You know, we have them right here at KCEP in the lobby. So go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so folks, my feed for Facebook died on me, but Crazy D's capturing everything, so you'll hear the rest of it here. Folks, as I said earlier, I want to give a shout out to Black Image, Black-owned media, to Urban Vegas, Black-owned media, to The Write-Up, Black-owned media, to Blackbook, the Blackbook, Black-owned media. My challenge to all of them, which I'm sure they will accept, is we have to be the voice and the message to our community, and we have to vet people before we will put them in our magazines, folks, or we discuss them, because it's about our community. All money ain't good money.
And if you think about it, if you're watching the news, all the time you see us on TV is when they got something negative to show.
Exactly.
So we need our black media to represent us.
But we need it more.
We used to call it the anti-in machine.
But more than ever in this voting cycle, we need to give true, honest information. We need to dig. We need to ask questions. If people have a history, we need to look at the history and let our people know what this person is doing for us now so that they can earn going forward. So, folks, if we're not doing that, we're doing a disservice to the community if we are not vetting people, if we are not looking at their records. And you know what? Sometimes we have to back off and say, I'm sorry. You're not the person I want to put in my magazine. Because we can determine who wins and who loses, folks. And we need to make sure that the right people win. Tim Betwell for sheriff. And we will let you know after we talk to the district attorney who's there. Because, folks, if you're happy the way we've been treated in the judicial system, then vote in the same people. If you feel that there are biases and injustices and we don't vote out those people, then you have accepted your lot in life. So get over it, shut up about it, and you will know one person who has gone to jail, because 1 out of 3 black folks go to jail right now. Here's a final thought. We have a country where we spend half of our income that we take in on war. And then we have another one where in 1972 there were 300,000 people in prison. Now there are 2.3 million people. So we will spend money to incarcerate. We will spend money to kill people. Something's wrong with that picture. We are not what we should be in America. We should be spending more money dealing with helping the people who live in the United States, spending it on the community, figuring out how to keep people out of jail versus in jail. That should be the part of what we do. So stop talking to me just about education and gun control and start talking to me about the real issues, folks. The marijuana industry. It is the growth industry here in Vegas. We need to demand that we are part of this industry, not try to figure out how we spend the money from somebody else's pocket into our education. Folks, we're talking and asking the wrong questions.
And
it's about the economics.
And that discussion took place, too.
Exactly.
And that clip is also up for people to go and hear from the Libertarian Party and the Republican Party and the Democrat Party on that.
Yep. So we got 2 minutes here. And, again, I want to welcome you, Miss Thomas, to the Black Book team.
Thank you.
And Teresa, very insightful. We're going to get you off the fence so you say, I'm with Tim Bedwell. All right? And Crazy D, you are always insightful. Folks, if you haven't downloaded the Black Book, www.theblackbook.directory, shame on you. We are the Black Directory. 100% black owned and operated. Membership, ownership matters. So please, accept no substitutes. The Black Book is the Black Directory. The Black Market is our e-commerce site. So again, peace, folks. We're out. Thank you again, Brian.
Just as sure as it takes 2 eyes to make a pair. Brother, we can't quit until our share.